We knew coming into this that the Bucs were going to play us tough, but after a dominating first half, the Eagles' offense went lifeless, and the defense allowed the Buccaneers back into the game, narrowly holding them off with a final score of 31-25 to rise to 4-0. Welcome to the Bird's Nest Podcast. I'm Joe Donahue. Thank you so much for joining us. The Eagles played a challenging game with a challenging opponent in challenging conditions, and the good news is that the Eagles team rose to 4-0, which is the only thing that matters at the end of the day. That having been said, though, this win really was not a statement win. It was not a win that would inspire confidence in this team. If you were to only look at this game and not the trajectory of the season so far, this would not be a game that would say, hey, this Eagles team is going to do great things, or this Eagles team is even going to start 4-0. Now, the first half of this game did begin pretty much in the way last week's game ended. The Eagles forced the Buccaneers to punt on their opening drive, and Cameron Latu came in with a blocked punt that bounced over to Sidney Brown, who scooped it up and scored the Eagles' first points of the game. And that really set the pace for the first half. Baker Mayfield was held to 12 for 21 in the passing game with 65 yards and a sack. The Eagles' defense was able to consistently deliver on third downs, with the Buccaneers going 1 for 7 on third down in the first half. The Buccaneers just simply could not find a rhythm at all, and they punted more often than they moved the ball with just 99 net offensive yards in the first half. They didn't even cross 100 offensive yards in that first half of play. That was a huge, huge statement for this Philadelphia Eagles defense. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles offense was clicking. The Eagles got a touchdown in the first quarter. Jalen Hurts was 15 for 16 through the first half for 130 yards, with the only pass he missed coming on a poorly placed ball to A.J. Brown, who had 3 targets for 2 catches in the first half. And while the run game did continue to struggle, the Philadelphia Eagles did get 71 rushing yards in the first half, which is a testament to the resilience of everybody who participates in that game. The Eagles were 3 for 5 on third downs, and they were able to deliver strikes to Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley through the air, each with 4 catches on 4 targets. Goedert actually wound up having 2 touchdowns in the first half. It was a great, great first half, and the Philadelphia Eagles went into the locker room up 24-6. The only reason the Eagles went into the locker room with giving up 6 points was the fact that the Buccaneers scored 2 field goals in the first half. One of them was a 48-yarder, and the other was a whopping 65-yard field goal. But that having been said, this game had all the makings of a blowout at the end of the first 30 minutes of play. When the Eagles came out of the locker room, though, it was almost as if a completely different team was coming back onto the field. It was definitely not the team that was playing the first half of this game. Potentially, you could say it was the team that played the first half against the Rams, but somehow was worse. Jalen Hurts went 0 for 8 in the passing game in the second half. 0 for 8. He didn't complete a single pass in the second half. And it also didn't feel like he went to anyone other than A.J. Brown, who had 9 targets on the day. Again, only those 2 catches. Hurts definitely looked a little confused in the second half as the Buccaneers defense remembered how to dial pressure up and rattle him. Saquon, who had 7 carries for 18 yards in the first half, finished with 19 carries for 43 yards, though he did get a touchdown on a fake tush-push play that I think was put into the playbook when the Philadelphia Eagles were operating under the threat of a tush-push ban this past offseason. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles obviously do have the tush-push as a legal play, but this was something, maybe a new wrinkle to this play that helped keep teams on their toes. The Eagles did finish 5 for 14 on third downs. Remember, they were 3 for 5 on third downs in the first half, So they only converted 2 third downs in the second half at all. And the second half offense really was rather anemic. This put a lot of pressure on the Philadelphia Eagles defense, who also, understandably, struggled mightily in the second half. Baker Mayfield finished 22 for 40, going 10 for 19 in the second half in the passing game. And when you combine that with the 100 plus feels like temperature in Tampa Bay and the fact that the offense just simply couldn't catch a break in the second half, the Eagles defense seemed gassed at times. Missed tackles and guys left wide open were plentiful in the second half. Special teams was allowing long punt returns, long kick returns by Cameron Johnson, who wound up finishing the day with 100 return yards on 6 punt returns and 42 yards on 2 kickoff returns. The Eagles also gave up a number of big plays to the Buccaneers in the second half, including 2 70-plus yard touchdown passes in the third quarter. One to Bucky Irving for 72 yards and one to Emeka Egbuka for 77 yards. The Eagles defense has no business giving up those plays. And all of this contributed to another game where it was a tale of two halves. And at a certain point, the Eagles have yet to play a complete game, and that does concern me through 4 weeks. Again, the Eagles won, and that is a huge thing to celebrate, but the fact that the Eagles haven't played a complete game through 4 weeks is a little bit concerning. Now, Nick was asked post-game about the dichotomy in the performance between the first and second halves in this game.
Yeah, I'll have to look at all that. Again, we weren't, coaching, playing second half. They got us, right? We didn't play. We had enough of a lead, and we made enough turnovers to hang on to the lead. But we obviously played good there. Running game, passing game, it was everything. It wasn't just you can't single out one. This is a team game. It's never just. I don't ever think it's just one, because sometimes you're in second and 11, and then that because of an incomplete pass or a sack or whatever it is. So or a minus run. So it's never just one thing in my mind. We'll look at the tape. I'll have probably better insight for you tomorrow on that.
So there's a lot to learn from for this game, but I will give the defense a whole bunch of credit here as well, because they did force the Buccaneers' first 2 turnovers of the season, one of which the Eagles were actually able to convert into that Saquon Barkley touchdown in the second half off of the fake tush push. Also all-stars were Cooper DeJean with 9 tackles and 2 pass breakups, and Quinyon Mitchell once again proving that Quinyanamo Bay is alive and well. Q was credited with 5 pass breakups and 5 more tackles. Zach Bond and Mora Ojomo each got a sack as well. So there was plenty of activity in the defense. It just felt like there was also a lot more of a challenge in the second half that the defense seemed to struggle with a little bit more than they did in the first half. But at the end of the day, the team did do what it needed to do to come away with the victory. And an ugly win counts the same as a beautiful win, as a blowout. At the end of the day, 4-0 is still 4-0. And this team did make history starting 4-0 for the third time in 4 years. Not many teams in NFL history can say that. There's also a huge credit going out to Jalen Hurts, who has now broken the franchise record for most consecutive completed passes without an interception. But realistically, this team, in my opinion, does not have laurels to rest on with this game. Now, for me, a large portion of the Eagles' offensive struggles on Sunday came down to play calling. There was a lot of run, pass, which is good when you can control the game speed, but the Eagles had no control over the game speed in the second half. This made the offensive scheme very predictable and very vanilla, and the play calling absolutely needs to improve for the offense. We're 4 weeks in, and Kevin Patullo's play calls simply have not impressed me at all. Now, there are a few gems. The fake tush push, Goddard's touchdowns are the gems that do kind of stand out, but if I can dial up a defensive scheme to shut down the Eagles' offense, we have a problem, especially given the immense amount of weapons that Kevin Patullo has to work with when he's making play calls. The Eagles also have to figure out the run game at this point too, because the team that led the league in rushing yards last season is now struggling hard to move the ball on the ground with their running backs. The Eagles have a huge run problem right now, and that is going to need to be something that is addressed as the Eagles move further into the season. But again, a win is a win, and the Eagles are heading home to prepare for the Denver Broncos. And I hope that as we move past this first month, the Philadelphia Eagles start winning in more convincing fashion. The Eagles' tough opening to the season is over, and in my opinion, I think they outperformed expectations a little bit in these first 4 games, especially given the fact that the Eagles knocked off the thorn in their side. This was a solid first 4 games, but the performance that we've seen can't continue. It is now on to Denver, and hopefully the start of an easier stretch of the schedule. But as always, let me know what you think in the comments below. What are your thoughts about this game? What concerns do you have? What things are you celebrating? Let me know. And thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to the Bird's Nest Podcast. You can support the Bird's Nest Podcast by liking and subscribing to Bird's Nest Media right here on YouTube, as well as by sharing to your social media pages. You can also find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, the Odyssey app, and iHeartRadio. Please visit birdsnestmedia.com for additional Eagles and NFL coverage. And if you feel so inclined to support us in a different way, you can find the link to our Patreon in the description below or at birdsnestmedia.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's go Eagles!